I'm a fan of Bernie Sanders as a person. Hear me out. Hear me out where I'm going with this. I had a communist on. I've had a lot of communists. I probably interviewed, I don't know, 6 or 7 communists, right? Sometimes
That's
people
what Pat does on the weekends.
Yeah.
Debates communists. That's for fun.
I would love to know how many of those videos were pulled. I'm guessing none.
None of them. They're all on. Absolutely.
That is so surprising to me.
That's a good,
color me shocked, everyone.
What a great research we just did in 2 seconds. She's right. None of them have been pulled. But I have these commies on, and I interview them. And I'm curious to know what they think. And I respect the ones that are true believers. The ones that are just phony, trying to sound like they're, you'll catch them very quickly. Within 30 minutes, you're full of shit. You're not really What are you talking about, right? Okay, so you're just acting up. But some of the guys you talk, you're like, okay, cool. I respect it. I think Bernie's a true believer. You know what's confusing to me with Bernie? Why I think a Bernie and an AOC in the most strangest way are necessary. Let me explain why. AOC the other day called out, not the other day, about 5 weeks ago, called out Pelosi saying, Congress, people in politics shouldn't be able to,
trade
invest
stocks.
because we have insider information. It's like, no, I'm gonna invest. You can't tell me anything. I'm gonna do it, right? But by the way, other people are now coming in, and somebody, not Jim Jordan, who was a guy that, maybe even Jim Jordan, who called out Pelosi recently, not Jim Jordan, the other guy. There's
Mark Meadows?
I don't know who it was. Pull up to see who just called out Pelosi. Here's where I'm going with this.
Mark Meadows.
Do you know the medicine AZT? AZT was for AIDS.
I only know Sudafed. That's all I got.
Okay, that's right. But AZT was a pill they came up with for AIDS, which, by the way, some claim 330,000 people died from this. Like, remember Accutane had a lot of side effects?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, this is like times, a lot higher.
People died from taking AIDS medication.
AIDS medication. But here's the part. When they built this medicine, when they finally came out with this medicine, do you know how much it cost them to make each pill? 2 cents is what it cost them to make.
They're
Pennies.
selling it for $100 a pill?
No, $10,000.
What?
And guess who was for it? A guy named Fauci.
Yep.
So a person that shouldn't be for what Fauci is doing is, in a random way, I think an AOC and a Bernie Sanders, if they come together and they realize that this guy is simply supporting Big Pharma, AOC and Bernie could play a very important role in a Fauci no longer being here, because Bernie keeps talking about what? What does Bernie say? How could you charge so much for this medicine? How could you charge so much for this medicine?
How is it free college?
Do you realize
This
thing costs 60 cents to make, but they're selling it for $1,000? Okay, Bernie, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You're right. Keep pushing the envelope, because the guy that's endorsing and allowing these things to happen, because here's what happens with them. They got 20 different products that's being pitched. Hey, this could be the cure for this. But I'm only looking at the 5 that I want to deal with, because I'm not spending time investigating these other ones. So my resources are being used for this 5. But these other 15, they're cheap, cost effective, less side effects. Let's test them out. No, not right now. Maybe a year from now. Maybe 2 years from now. Maybe 3 years from now. So I think the possibility of Fauci getting fired could be high. And in the most random, weirdest way, I think the people that can help that happen is Bernie and AOC.
The thing is, though, Bernie and AOC, and you're right. I mean, these should not be big pharma allies. They should be sounding the alarm on all of this stuff. But the problem is that they're benefiting from the chaos, the division, and the panic. Again, part of all of this is panic, right? Because there are treatments available now. We shouldn't be panicked now. This is not March of 2020. There are treatments available. There are monoclonals. There are drugs that we know. Yes, ivermectin has been used successfully. I know Joe Rogan took a bunch of hits, but it's true. There have been numerous studies on that. There's hydroxy, which people have taken. There's other treatments that are available for people now. If you take that panic away, if you take that division away, communism cannot thrive. You can't. It can't. It needs that, because you have to believe that the state is for it. You have to believe that it's the state. It's what Fauci says. These people are sheep. They walk around. They're like, I don't know what to do. Do I double mask? Do I shield? Do I triple mask? They need that. So if you remove that and all of a sudden AOC starts questioning Big Pharma, people will start realizing, well, wait a minute. Did a lot of this have to do with money? Did a lot of this have to do with suppression of treatments? Did we really need to be panicking for this long about this condition?
And I want to see what you're going to say. I'm going to push back and see what you're going to say. So how many people on the right would like to see a third party?
None.
On the right?
No, I mean, listen.
Like, let me ask you a question.
Yes, there are people, but it's not in a majority because they know that a third party will enable a Democrat success.
Oh, but now let me ask the other question. How many people on the left would like to see a third party? You don't think so? Okay. Well, this is my idea on what I'm thinking, that I do believe both sides want to see a third party. Hear me out. Hear me out here. I think AOC is sick and tired of these Democrats that are getting in the way. I think AOC is convinced they're never going to buy in to what she's bought into, ever. And I think AOC is eventually going to sit there and say, you know what? I'm loud enough. I got a bigger mic. I get more likes. I get more eyeballs. I have more followers. I got the younger audience. You don't. I'm sexier. I'm more attractive. I talk better. I speak better. And I'm a true believer. And I'm going to get these guys to be convinced we need a third party. So what's the third party? A third party, say, Democratic Socialist Party comes out. Let's just say. I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
Speculation, right? I think where that 12% of America wants to go to, that I think America is run by 12%. I don't think America is run by anything else but the 12%.
In the middle, you mean?
In the middle,
Independence.
I think 12% runs America. I think all the other guys are just wasting time. 12% of America runs America, period. It's a 12% that was like, you know what, I don't know about Trump, let me go over here. It's the 12% that said, you know, I don't know about Obama, let's go to Trump. It's the 12%. The 12% runs
in the Rust Belt.
Everybody else is
typically.
just talking.
Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin,
Everybody's
Indiana.
talking. 12% is the one that runs the country. I think if it gets to the tipping point where these guys are eventually sitting there having a strategy session, because I think the four, you know, what did he call the four girls? What's the squad?
Squad.
Right? I think if those guys are sitting behind closed doors and saying, hey, girls, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go. Let's go all out. Here's what we should do. Now, you're shaking your head.
No, I see where you're going with this.
I'm telling you right now, I actually think that's good for America. I actually think it's good for America if some of those guys go and some of the people from the right go, because I think the left
What do you
takes
mean on
a
the
hit.
right?
I think the right, from the right, they're like, screw this. I want to be a libertarian. I'm going to go independent. Let's push. Let's actually bank on bringing a Ron Paul, not a Ron Paul, the founder of the internet. What's the guy? The guy that heard Bush and is out, not Al Gore.
Ross Perot?
Ross Perot.
Yeah.
Let's get the next Ross Perot true believer. A Shamat type of guy. A person like that's like, screw Republicans, screw Democrats. I'm an independent. I'm a real independent that can make sense. That's a salesperson that can get you to say, this makes sense. Like you're saying, Rand Paul doesn't. He's so intellectual that he can't speak the language of the average person. Believe it or not, I think there's going to be some positive happening from some of these socialists because they're not for big pharma. And if you have to look at enemies, like if you sit there right now and make a list of enemies, like concerns, like if you sit there and you got, I don't know if you guys got kids or no kids.
right.
One kid.
One kid, really? How?
Hartley, 2 years old.
That's
2
the name
years
of her
old.
book.
Dear Hartley.
Dear
That's
Hartley,
right. Dear
that's
Hartley,
my
yeah.
baby.
Who are you writing down over there? You wrote an enemy down, I feel.
2 years old.
No. I wrote a little note for myself. He's
It's
too perceptive.
fantastic.
He's
So,
too perceptive.
I got a 9'8", 5, and a 6.5-month-old baby.
Oh my God!
Right?
How are you not exhausted?
Vampire
my
blood
eyes
right
don't
here.
see anything. But anyway, so here's where I'm going with this. I think those guys are ambitious enough to believe that. And I think if we look at the current enemies, look at the list of top 10 enemies. Like, you're raising kids. And you say, who are the enemies of me raising kids? Well, what school am I going to put them? Teachers? Like, weird things you think as an enemy of a kid. A teacher, a friend, a coach, a Sunday school teacher. Like, you got to be kind of keeping your eyes open to see who's there, right? Son of a friend's, kids. Like, some of that stuff. Okay, who are the long-term enemies of America, of us? Okay, so one is Silicon Valley. You have to put that on that list. 2 is what? Let's say socialists. Okay, fine. Big Pharma's got to be in the top 10. Yeah. Okay.
China.
Lobbyists got to be in the top 10. China's at the number 1 spot, right? You got to put Russia's probably in the top 10. Iran's probably in the top 15. But you have to put Big Pharma on that list. So now how do you play against them? The way this happens on holding them accountable is when both sides kind of team up and say, you know what? No, it took you 5 cents to make this. $10,000 is just too much abuse. And all these health insurance costs, you guys keep increasing. I have a lot of employees. Every year I'm paying more health insurance, and I have the friction with the employee. Well, my health insurance is going up. I'm like, dude, I didn't increase your health insurance 30%. This is what's increasing the health insurance. I think there are certain things that those two sides can disrupt big pharma. I don't know. Maybe I had too much Sudafed this morning. I don't know what it is.
Shout out to Sudafed.
So
Sudafed's having a good
I think you
podcast
have a very valid point
Yeah.
right here. Everything you're saying
Anyways,
is
I may be confused and lost, but I think my point makes sense.
So here's the problem with that, though. If that segment of the left, you're talking about the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders,
Yeah.
if they're going to come out and criticize big pharma, they're going to come at it from the perspective of the solution is socialized medicine. The solution
Medicare
is
for
more
all.
government. The solution is Medicare for all. That's a problem that's going to appeal. It'll appeal to some. It will enrage others. Also, they're going to have a really hard time doing that because they need the support. If you're going to criticize big pharma, you also have to criticize the FDA. You also have to criticize collusion that goes on between government organizations and institutions and these pharmaceutical companies and how really intrinsically linked they often are. They're not going to do that. So the right is, the people on the right who criticize big pharma will come in and say, well, they'll talk about profits, but they'll talk about the answers to a lot of this is innovation, is choice, is freedom, is opportunity. The people from the left who criticize big pharma are going to say, well, they're all about profit. And the way that we fix this is that we remove profit. And then you have socialized medicine where people are waiting, lines and lines and lines. And you have government deciding for you. Instead of big pharma deciding for you what you need this, you need that, you're going to have government deciding it for you. And yeah, maybe it'll be less expensive, but I don't know that the outcome is any different. So I think it's very tricky. My question is always, how much support? I know AOC's popular. She's on TikTok. She's talking to young people. Most of what she says to me makes absolutely no sense. I encourage her to come and sit and have a debate with me. I think it would be really great television. Most of what she says can easily be pushed back on and makes very little sense. But how much of the country actually is going to support someone like that? Because I do think there are a lot of people who will and a lot of people who won't. But my concern is, what does that number look like? What is that percentage? Are we now seeing in America where these mandates and this way of life and this shift towards socialism is increasingly much more popular so that someone like an AOC, she ultimately decides one day she wants to run for president, actually has a chance? And what does that look like? I don't know. I think no, I don't. I think we're really very split right now in the United States of America. And you all you need to do is, you know what, everybody out there, take a trip to New York City and spend 3 days there and then come out to, Miami, head out to Dallas, Texas, and just see the two completely different worlds we're living in. But I don't know how helpful it is. I don't know. I always think splitting up political parties has an advantage because you force people to actually stand for something. But the allegiances will be the same, right? Like AOC needs the teachers' unions. The establishment Democrat needs the teachers' unions. AOC needs government agencies. The Democrat establishment needs government agencies. That's why these third parties don't work oftentimes, because they're out there on their own. They have to break all of those ties. And then who's funding them? Where are their donations coming from? The people? Could work. I don't know.
Well, that's the good part, because neither Bernie nor AOC are getting checks from big pharma. Again, that's the part where you got to respect, where it's a lot of smaller guys that are giving them the money, right?
It's the government, though. Is that better?
I totally get it. But the part is, it doesn't matter if the two groups can unify on one enemy. One is going to pitch, this is why the government's got to take care of it. The other one's going to say, no, you got to make the barrier to entry to compete a lot low, because these guys are not helping the smaller companies come up and compete against a Pfizer, compete against this guy. It's pretty much a control at the top, right? So meaning, for the longest time, tell me one automaker that competed in America.
Right.
When's the last time an automaker competed in America? When's the last time? You know how many years it's been? Do you know how many years it's been that a new automaker comes out and whoops some ass? When's
Tesla.
the last time? No. Prior to that.
prior to Tesla, you're saying.
Who was it? Name me. DeLorean?
An American company?
An American company comes out and competes.
Other than the big three, other than GM, Ford,
Chrysler.
Yeah.
Tell me one. Nobody.
I can't even think of
Do
a
you
name.
realize how many years that is? So what happens with Tesla? What's the best thing that happened with America? Elon Musk. Tesla comes out, disrupts the automotive industry. They're scared. They're sitting there saying, holy freaking moly. Biden and his administration holds an EV meeting at the White House. They invite Chrysler, they invite Ford, they invite GM, and the only guy they don't invite is the guy that disrupted the EV, Elon Musk. So how necessary is an Elon Musk? Very necessary.
But he's not a politician. So here's the thing.
But I'm saying opposing.
That.
I'm saying if the two but Elon Musk is also not a Republican. Right?
Right.
Elon Musk is probably independent. He's not a Republican. You can't sit there and say Republican.
Right.
All I'm saying is, I think the people on the right, anything they say about big pharma, the left is going to say what? Yeah, they're going to say something like that. Well, how about the fact that, Ruber, Murdoch and what Fox is doing? But if an AOC and a Bernie says that, then Democrats have to sit there and say, ooh, maybe Bernie's right. Yeah, look, this is true. This is like this whole thing right now, the confusion with my body, my choice.
Right.
What is my body, my choice?
Right.
My body, my choice is what? Is, hey, if I want to get an abortion, it's up to me.
Right.
You're right. Look at the hypocrisy in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
You're right. My body, my choice.
And that's a debate that's a little bit different too, because, and people always say, well, my body, my choice. You're right. There is a lot of hypocrisy from people who would argue, who would support abortion, but then would turn around and tell you that, the vax mandates are totally legit. But the difference with that is also because people will come out and say, well, that involves another person. If you're pregnant, that involves another life. That's a whole different pro-life argument that would have to be brought in and, debated. And I understand what you're saying, but I think that what you would be suggesting would imply that these politicians are principled and don't have those underlying ties to establishment X, Y, and Z throughout. Like, I don't think AOC is someone who's out there. You saw a year ago, I remember, she was making headlines. She was going after Pelosi. They were like, the division, the left is falling apart. She took 2 steps forward and she fell right back in line because she understands that there's a lot of power that comes from being part of something. She can criticize them. I don't know. I don't know if what you're talking. I think there are people who can break the system,
right?
But I firmly believe that those people come from outside of Washington, D.C., not inside.
Yeah, to me, I see Bernie and AOC that they believe what they're talking about. Bernie more than AOC because Bernie got married and his honeymoon was in Russia. I mean, did you go to Russia on your honeymoon? I didn't go to Russia.
Well, he believes it, but he's not living. His lifestyle doesn't ascribe to what.
True.
I mean, he's got a ton of money.
Yeah. And he does have a lot of money, but he's also a guy that in the area of going up against big pharma, I'm just telling you, he will play a very important role in beating those guys. He's very, very important in that area. Okay, you and I don't have to agree on, hey, you don't like Tyler, I don't like Tyler, whatever. Okay, so, but you like him, I don't like him, whatever. I like Adam, you don't like Adam, whatever. But if you and I agree and say, look, that guy right there, I don't agree with that. He does this, but that one thing, I can go on that one thing with you. Yeah. And you open them and say, look, folks, Bernie here and I don't agree on 99% of things. But let me tell you the one thing that we agree on. There's no way in the world medication costs $1,000 when they make it for pennies. That's the one area, Bernie. Is it fair to say we agree on that? I think we want to see that.
We want to see it. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen because that's not how the sides of the political aisle work.
I read this book called The Power of Positive Thinking.
You're very positive, and I understand. No, I in a different political environment, in a different world. I hear what you're saying. It sounds great that people would be able to focus on an issue, come together on different sides of an aisle, attack that issue. It's not going to happen because they see it as a domino effect and they're going in such drastically different directions solution-wise. That's the problem. My solutions are over here. Your solutions are over here. Never to come and meet in the center for any reason. I just don't think it's going to happen. But we can agree to disagree on that one. I'll watch. I want front row tickets and popcorn if that starts happening.
Bernie, if you want to talk big pharma, please. You have the mic. Come on here. Let's talk.
He's not going to do it.
Big pharma. I wouldn't be surprised if Bernie shows up one of these days. So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.